You can say that considering how many sequels this franchise got, it never really hit a dead end. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel and the second installment of my Wrong Turn review series. Today, we're talking about the second film in the franchise, Wrong Turn 2, Dead End. I already have a review of the first movie up, and I'll leave a link to that in the description in case you missed it. But in the meantime, let me know in the comments what your thoughts on the Wrong Turn movies were, if you've seen any of them, and make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you like these reviews, as it helps me out immensely by getting my channel out there and growing the community. And if you are new here, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of new releases, older films, hidden gems, and so much more on a near daily basis. But let's not waste any more time and let's talk about Wrong Turn 2, Dead End. This focuses on a group of reality show contestants who find themselves fighting for their survival against a family of hideously deformed inbred cannibals who plan to ruthlessly butcher them all. This is directed by Joe Lynch, who went on to direct films like Netflix's Point Blank, as well as a very underrated comedy known as Mayhem. This also contains an entirely new cast from the first film, though one of the cannibals from that last movie, known as Three Finger, does return here, just played by a different actor, and I believe he's the only character to appear in all 6 of the original movies. And from here on out, until we get to the reboot, these are all direct-to-video films, which is kind of funny considering nowadays that's the equivalent of a movie going direct to streaming. And these days we get a lot of quality movies that do go direct to streaming, but even just 14 years ago when this was released, it wasn't always a good sign. But this surprisingly is a lot better than a movie you typically see go direct to video, especially for a slasher sequel, as those can be very hit and miss to begin with. And honestly, I actually enjoyed this a little more than the original. Now, granted, the original is far from a horror classic itself, so it's only saying so much, but still, I actually found this to be pretty entertaining for what it is. Similar to the original, it's just another silly B-movie. What I liked is how it didn't just totally rehash the same idea here and be a simple beat-by-beat retelling of the original, just with different characters. The only things that remain the same here are the wood setting and, as I mentioned, one of the main villains. In fact, I'd say this film pushes things much more than the first film did. It cranks things up a notch in terms of gory, violent action scenes, including a pretty fun opening sequence that includes a cameo by Kimberly Caldwell from American Idol, which was honestly more over the top than any of the action scenes we saw in the entire first film. And I'd say this film has an overall campier and more over the top vibe to it. The special effects, like the first film, and for what I assume will be the case for the rest of these movies, aren't exactly anything to write home about, but whenever there is a moment that involves special effects, they'll just go all out with it, such as blood splattering all over the place, or if someone gets knocked back, they'll go flying from one side of the screen to the other. And it's pretty much to the point where there is a so bad it's good vibe to it, where you can just laugh at everything. It's another film that knows exactly what it is and just wants you to sit back, relax, and have some fun with it. In a way, it almost feels as if it's a parody of some of the more ridiculous elements of the first movie. Now, unlike the last time where the cannibals were kind of obscured in darkness for long stretches, they're almost always out in the open here, and we even learn a little bit of backstory about them, at least as far as how they came to be. And they try to add bits of dark humor into some of their interactions, though some of it comes off more like they were trying to shock you just for the sake of it. Like, there are a number of sexually explicit moments involving the cannibals that tried to have this humorous edge to them, but they were clearly also trying to push you to see how much you can take seeing on screen, and a lot of it really didn't work. But it kind of speaks to how this film is as a whole. In a way, the film is representative of how filmmakers around this time in particular tried pushing how much they can get away with before it's considered too much. Not even just with horror movies, but with broad R-rated comedies as well, which were huge at this time. A lot of movies released through the 2000s had director's cuts or unrated versions released on video, and even the theatrically released versions of some of these films tried to throw in as much gross-out moments as possible, either through shock humor or scenes that were so gory that they'd make people uncomfortable. And that's still a thing now, but it was all over the place all through the 2000s. And we get that throughout this film, mainly through some of the interactions with the cannibals, as I mentioned, and even the way in which some of the main characters act towards one another. Some will sneak off and have sex in the woods, others will make these extremely crude remarks towards one another, either because they were trying to make a joke or they were being hyperbolic, and it felt like they were really trying to cram a lot of that in here. And some of the remarks made definitely feels outdated. Like, I shuddered at a few of the things that were said here. And speaking of the characters themselves, as I mentioned in my review of the first film, I know these aren't meant to be character-based films, but I'd say for the most part, this was another instance where most of the characters here are generic and disposable. And this time around, most of them are not played by really well-known actors, with one exception I'll get to in a moment. So it's not like you can just rely on the charm of seeing your favorite TV actors pop up here. Now, they do try to give them more of a personality than the characters from the first film by trying to make their interactions funnier to fit with that overall B-movie vibe of the film, as some things they'd say would be ridiculous, though I'd still say most of them wind up being forgettable, because beyond their wisecracks, there's still nothing to them. Now, there were a small amount of exceptions to this though, but they stood out for different reasons. Like, for example, there's one character named Jonesy, played by Steve Braun, who is probably the biggest offender of cracking a lot of crude jokes that will feel really outdated, and he ends up getting annoying really quickly. But unlike the last film, there is actually one character who stands out and is legitimately enjoyable, partially because of who plays him and partially because of the direction they took with him. And that's Dale, played by the one and only Henry Rollins. He's a former Marine colonel who's supposed to be the host of this reality show, though he winds up getting abducted early on. But they go down a fun route with him, and he really adds to the over-the-top, goofy nature of the film. Now, I'm not saying he's the most well-written character I've ever seen, because he tends to be very in-your-face, and he flies off the handle easily, and he's someone who, if played the wrong way, could have been really annoying, but the situations they placed him in were very entertaining for what they were, and Rollins surprisingly towed the line just enough between funny and obnoxious, so he managed to be a nice standout in a film that's known for pretty much everything but their characters. For what this is, it's actually pretty fun. There are parts about it that definitely don't age well between its crude humor and gross out moments, and it does suffer once again from having a cast of mostly forgettable characters outside of Henry Rollins, but those faults are overshadowed in areas where it actually improves a bit on the first movie. It's goofier, bloodier, and more over the top, and while like the first movie, it's by no means a horror classic, it's once again a film that knows exactly what it is and simply wants you to have fun with it. And I think it set out what it accomplished. So overall, it makes for a solid B-movie. Wrong Turn 2 Dead End gets a 7 out of 10. Next up is Wrong Turn 3 Left 4 Dead, and this should get interesting as I hear these movies take quite a turn after this one, so we'll see how this goes. But let me know, did you see Wrong Turn 2, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did you like it more than the first movie, less than the first movie? Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching everyone, and keep having fun with film.